amazing. I mean, I played her when she kind of broke out last year in Miami, and you know, I'm from there, and the whole crowd was against me, and I was like, what on earth is going on? Like, where do these people come from? And then week after week, as she, you know, has done well and established herself as a really good player on tour, they all come out to support her. And so I think we saw that in Australia when it was kind of overcrowded. They put her on too small of a court. We saw it here. You can hear it from the hotel. You can hear the crowd roaring, especially at night. So it's incredible.
Jessica Pegula just won Dubai, trophy in hand, confetti still falling. And the first thing the tennis world wanted to know had nothing to do with her victory. They asked about Eala, and what Pegula said next stopped the entire tennis world dead in its tracks. This was not diplomacy. This was not a player being polite in a press conference to avoid controversy. This was a competitor, a top 5 player who has been inside the pressure cooker of professional tennis long enough to know exactly what she is looking at, speaking from genuine, personal, first-hand experience. And every single word she said carried weight that no marketing campaign, no PR strategy, and no carefully crafted narrative could ever manufacture. She called Eala amazing, not promising, not exciting for her age, not a player to watch in the coming years. Amazing, right now, as she currently stands. The same word you reach for when ordinary language feels insufficient. But then she went somewhere nobody expected. She went back to Miami. She talked about the day she played Eala during her breakthrough run. The run where Eala had already dismantled Ostapenko, Keys, and Świątek back-to-back, before Pegula stood across the net from her. Pegula won that match, and yet here she is, months later, still processing what she experienced that day, still searching for words big enough to describe it. She said the entire crowd was against her, an American player, American city, American tournament, completely outnumbered in her own backyard. She stood on that court and genuinely thought, what on earth is going on? Where did these people come from? Let that image burn into your mind. One of the most recognizable players on the WTA Tour, playing in Miami, feeling like the away player, because the Filipino fans had arrived in such overwhelming numbers that the entire atmosphere of that venue belonged to one person, Eala. Pegula won the match, and the crowd is still the thing she remembers most vividly. That is not a detail. That is the entire story. Because here is the truth that Pegula's question accidentally revealed. Those fans did not come from nowhere. They were never nowhere. They were in Miami the whole time. They were in Melbourne, in Dubai, in Los Angeles, in every city across the globe where Filipino communities have built their lives, their networks, their diaspora connections spanning every continent. Over 4 million Filipinos in the United States alone, present in every major city where the biggest tennis tournaments take place. They were always there, waiting. Eala gave them a reason to be visible. And the moment she started winning, really winning, beating top 10 players, making deep runs at prestigious events, playing tennis that demanded to be taken seriously, the infrastructure of that fan base activated with a speed and a scale that the tennis establishment was completely unprepared for. Melbourne nearly buckled under the weight of it. Courts too small, lines wrapping around stadiums, fans who had crossed oceans standing outside unable to get in. The Australian Open, one of the most logistically sophisticated sporting events on the planet, caught completely off guard by a 20-year-old from the Philippines. Dubai sold out. Every single match. Tournament director on record saying he had never seen anything like it in his entire career running the event. A tournament that has hosted world number ones and Grand Slam champions for decades. Completely overwhelmed by demand for one player who was not even seated at the top of the draw. Indian Wells fans pressing through fences around practice courts before a single competitive ball was struck. A safety concern raised publicly. The largest tennis tournament in the United States scrambling to manage situations it had never encountered before. And in Dubai, Pegula described this moment and it stopped everyone cold. You could hear the crowd from the hotel, not from the courtside seats, not from the nearby concourse, from the hotel rooms. players lying in their beds at night listening to thousands of Filipino fans roaring for Eala through the walls. Think about what that actually means. You are a professional tennis player trying to rest and prepare for your next match. And through your hotel wall, you can hear the crowd that is already there for the person you might have to face next. The noise traveling through concrete and glass and corridors. Impossible to ignore. Impossible to explain away as ordinary tournament atmosphere. That is not atmosphere. That is a phenomenon. Now here is something that does not get talked about enough. The emotional weight that the EA Army carries into every single tournament is not just loud, it is personal. These are not neutral spectators who paid for entertainment. These are people who see themselves in Eala. Filipinos who grew up being told in 1,000 subtle and not-so-subtle ways that the grandest stages in global sport were not built for people who look like them. That excellence at that level came from somewhere else, from someone else. And then, Eala walked onto a professional tennis court and started beating the best players in the world. And something cracked open inside an entire community simultaneously. The tears in the stands are not just about tennis. They are about recognition, about finally seeing yourself reflected in a place the world told you that you did not belong. About a 20-year-old girl from the Philippines standing on the same courts as the greatest players alive and refusing, absolutely refusing, to be anything less than their equal. That is what the crowds are actually carrying. That is the weight behind the noise. That is why the roar travels through hotel walls and wraps around stadiums and overwhelms every venue that was not built to contain it. And Pegula felt every single layer of that in Miami. She stood in the middle of it. She competed through it. She won through it. And she has not stopped thinking about it since. She did not just praise Eala in Dubai. She bore witness. She stood in a press conference with a championship trophy beside her and told the world what she had personally experienced on the court and what she believed it meant for the future of the sport. She said it is awesome for tennis. Twice. She called Eala a perfect role model. Said she is certain Eala wants to inspire Filipino girls to pick up a racket and believe that the biggest dreams are within reach. When a competitor repeats herself in a press conference, it is because the words she used the first time felt too small. And Pegula is not alone. Coco Gauff praised the Filipino fans after her Dubai match against Eala. Amanda Anisimova weighed in. And now Pegula, the player who was standing on the opposite side of the net the exact day this entire movement erupted into public consciousness, has delivered the most personal, most detailed, most emotionally resonant endorsement from any active player on tour. 3 American players, competitors, women fighting for the same titles, the same rankings, the same spotlight, voluntarily going out of their way to praise the same player and the same fan base within weeks of each other. That is not coincidence. That is testimony. Honest, unforced, competitor-to-competitor testimony that something happening on the WTA Tour right now is unlike anything any of them have seen before. Think about the commercial reality accelerating underneath all of this as well. Major global brands are paying very close attention right now. The combination of athletic excellence, cultural significance, and a mobilized fan base spread across every major market on the planet is not something that appears very often. Brand strategists spend entire careers hoping to identify an asset like this before the rest of the market wakes up. The market is waking up now. Sponsorship conversations are intensifying. The Eala effect is moving from cultural phenomenon into commercial reality in ways that are going to reshape her career and the sport around her simultaneously. And the timing could not be more electric. Indian Wells is next, then Miami, the city where Pegula stood on a court surrounded by Filipino fans and asked herself where they all came from. Eala enters both events with momentum, with a ranking climbing toward territory that changes everything about seedings and draw placements and access to the biggest courts at the biggest moments. The story is accelerating. The world is catching up to what the EA Army has always known. And somewhere in all of this, In the sold-out stadiums and the hotel walls that cannot contain the noise, and the American players voluntarily singing her praises in press conferences, and the brand executives suddenly paying very close attention, Alex Eala is simply doing what she has always done. Working, competing, winning, quietly building something permanent while the world scrambles to find words big enough to describe it. Pegula found her word, amazing. One word, no hesitation, no diplomatic softening, no carefully measured qualifier attached to protect herself from overcommitting. Just amazing. She meant it with everything she had, and the entire tennis world heard it. Did Pegula's Miami story hit you differently than anything else you have heard about Eala's rise? Do you understand now why the EA Army cries in the stands? Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because what is coming next is going to be historic.